Hello, Gamecock fans. I'm Spencer Ball.
And I'm JP Barry. Welcome to Ball Don't Lie, SGTV's premier live sports show.
JP and I will be giving you our weekly insight every Friday.
This week on the show, a hot start on the diamond for the Gamecocks.
And later, the NHL's four-nation face-off and our college basketball games of the week.
Be sure to stick around for head-to-head pick'ems.
And without further ado, welcome to Ball Don't Lie.
Welcome to the Kennedy Greenhouse Studio.
If you are a person in the Carolinas with functioning legs and a football jersey, please report to Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte.
We watched Ice Bryce Young do his thing and lead the Panthers to their second win of the season.
I think Matthew McConaughey and Dabo Swinney are very similar. I feel like maybe one day McConaughey could play Dabo in a movie.
Well, I think there's a lot of people that love seeing Clemson lose.
This is just what football is about, man. Two teams that run the football, play defense.
That guy's Superman sometimes, dude. We've got to pick the Yankees, otherwise I'd be kicked out of my own family.
Yankees.
It's
But
time.
man,
Is it time?
I think it's time.
This is Ball Don't Lie.
And South Carolina baseball is in good hands as the team has jumped up to a 5-0 start under new head coach Paul Mainieri. He took sole possession of 6 all-time for head coach wins in Division I baseball with Wednesday's victory against Queens, Spencer.
Yeah, it was a double midweek there.
Yeah, and this team, they've taken care of business against the teams they should.
Absolutely, and that's all you can ask for to start the season. Again, you see a lot of other kind of SEC or big teams play in some of these early season tournaments. South Carolina hasn't done that this year, but
They won't.
they won't. But they've done what they can, and they've won the games they're supposed to, as you said. And that's really how you're supposed to start the season. And really, what I think has been impressive for this team so far is the starting pitching. Yeah. Again, you're not going against the greatest of oppositions, but all starters on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday through 5 innings. Each of them had 9 strikeouts and gave up 1 earned run total.
Yeah, and, they're doing it without their presumed Friday night starter, as Eli Jerzenbeck is going to miss the season with that stress fracture in his elbow. But you look at this rotation, and it's still really good, very talented for this week against Milwaukee, who really struggled last year. You got Dylan Eskew on Friday, Matthew Becker on Saturday, and Jake McCoy on Sunday.
Yeah, and in addition, these guys only go in 5 innings. The relief pitchers behind them have also been really good. 2 guys I'd like to shout out, Parker Marlett and Brandon Stone. Each of them having really successful appearances so far, not giving up any runs and throwing a combined 7 innings. So again, 8 innings. So really just good stuff there from those guys. And I think Mainieri's done a great job of using the transfer portal in already his first year. And they got really lucky. They could just pull a guy off the couch and he already slots in at 6th in all-time wins.
Yeah, if you could get anyone, you'd probably want to, Ray Tanner's parting shot was one for the ages. And, like we joked about, the strength of schedule, but, you just got to take care of business because once you get into SEC play, it's going to be non-stop ranked opponents and just tough series week in, week out. But
Clemson's
really does,
right around the corner as well.
But it does suck for just the fan and the students because, it's our senior year. You have 3 games against Clemson, one of them's at home. You have a midweek against North Carolina and Charlotte, and that's it in terms of games against other, kind of power conference opponents. But hey, if you blow teams out, there'll be plenty of games worth coming to because there'll be big-time top 10, top 15 showdowns in conference play.
Absolutely, and we mentioned one of Ray Tanner's final parting shots as athletic director. Here's another one. Gamecock softball has been really hot, earning their number 21 ranking with 11 straight wins, but that hire was getting Ashley Chastain Woodard from the UNC Charlotte 49ers to head the softball program, and really, she has been outstanding. She's a Gamecock alum, and this team's off to their best start since 1996. At the beginning of the season, they play in a bunch of tournaments, but they actually do have a couple wins over teams getting votes in the preseason polls like Virginia.
And North Carolina, they blew them apart with, 12 walks the other day?
They went down 3-0 in the first inning, rattled off 11 straight unanswered runs, and UNC didn't score again.
Yeah, it was insane. And they can surpass that start if they take care of business this weekend against BU, Fordham, and UNLV. And it's across town. You got Founders Park there by the river, and you got the name just completely escaped. We've done games there. Beckham Field.
Yeah. Beckham Field at Carolina Softball Stadium.
Yeah, of course. Well, there we go. That's South Carolina Softball Stadium. But, like you said, it's been the portal. You have a trio of pitchers who have just been so good. Jory Hurd with a .25 ERA with 2 complete games already. Neely Lamb and Sam Gress as well, all pitching extremely.
Yeah, those last 2 are from Charlotte with Chastain Woodard.
When you hire a really good coach from a smaller school, they typically have some of their players follow along, and that's exactly what happened here.
Yeah, and Chastain Woodard, they made the tournament, 3 straight years at UNCC, came here, had their best record, and I don't remember if it was ever in a long time last year, but really hit the portal well because they also got Quincy Lilio from Oklahoma. She was a freshman last year, batting .586 leadoff with a .727 on-base percentage. You'll take that whenever you can almost guarantee that you've got someone getting on base over half the time. That's a really good thing to have on your team there.
We're looking into it, and it's true.
It is true. And it's been a really good start for Gamecock softball. I think, we're going to learn a lot more about this team come SEC time because that is the cream of the crop. Right now, there's 13 SEC teams in the top 25.
That's pretty good.
That's quite good. That's just a few off the list, and it wouldn't surprise me if they're, receiving votes just outside the top 25. So again, softball, a really good start. But moving from the diamond to the ice, the NHL's Four Nations face-off concluded last night. JP, this was just an epic game.
It really was. Canada won it all. Perhaps the only Four Nations face-off. This was kind of like a fill-in between the return of the World Cup of Hockey and the return of NHL players to the Olympics starting next year. But man, it was just special. It really was to see all this go down, and while the U.S. beat Canada in the round-robin play, we saw last night that, all it takes is one great performance. That was Jordan Bennington in net. The St. Louis Blue, who won in Game 7 in TD Garden to win the Stanley Cup Final for St. Louis, stopped 24 shots in a row to win it for Canada when the USA had amazing chances.
Those saves in overtime, were outstanding. That one where he stretched completely and stopped the shot near side, it was incredible stuff. He really kept them in the game, and who else but Connor McDavid to put it away for the Maples?
Left alone completely in the slot because Adam Fox was just chasing the puck like a dingus. It's interesting to see the takeaway.
I'm glad you said dingus and not something else. That would.
But one of the biggest takeaways from this tournament is how good Jacob Slavin is of the Carolina Hurricanes.
Outstanding.
People kind of realize, this is the best defensive defenseman in the National Hockey League. And the Hurricanes were like, how it feels to know you have Jacob Slavin signed for the next 8 years. And it was like, dude, yeah, this rocks because, that's what this tournament does. It shines a light on some of these players for, smaller market teams that get this international level, this international stage to perform. And, it's going to be interesting to see how Team USA runs it back for the Olympics. I don't know if Adam Fox will be there, but Connor Hellebuyck played amazing in net. And you just had, you really
Brady
felt like
Tkachuk was everywhere.
Yeah, you felt like this was really the team, and then it wasn't. So, it'll be interesting to see where they go after this.
Yeah, you can't hang your heads too much. Again, you lost 3-2 to Canada in overtime. You really had a chance to go out and win it. But you also were missing Matthew Tkachuk for a large portion of the game. But really, it was just great hockey to watch. Sean McDonough masterclass. It was awesome. Really, it was a great environment, and I think hopefully they kind of keep these international tournaments coming, whether it's the Four Nations again or, like you mentioned, the Club World Cup. Like doing something to get the nations playing each other again is as much as possible. This was awesome.
Yeah, it was. All the games did really good in the TV ratings department.
Yeah.
We'll see where this final ranks. I'm sure it'll be high. And so, it gets the juice flowing because, there was nothing really to combat it. There was no football. There was no basketball. There's no baseball yet. It was the talk of the sports world, which is something we haven't seen in hockey since probably the Stanley Cup final between the Bruins and the Canucks back in 2012 when the Canucks blew up their city when they lost. That was pretty much what this was. It was USA versus Canada. But hey, we're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. We've got college basketball coming up right after this break.
And we've got a colossal matchup to start our men's college hoops segment. Number 8, Iowa State visits 5th-ranked Houston on Saturday. And last time out, these two teams met in the Big 12 title game last year, where Iowa State just stomped them, 69-41. But I got a feeling the margin won't be that big with either side winning.
No, yeah, it was quite a shock last spring when that happened, and these two teams have just been on a tear ever since, really, across this entire season, starting with, of course, this Iowa State Cyclones, as this is for, position in the Big 12, 2 p.m. Saturday. They're led by 2 great scorers in Curtis Jones and Keyshawn Gilbert. And ever since we kind of featured them on the show, they were struggling. Spencer, they've ripped off 4 in a row.
Yeah, and really, we both agreed that when we talked about them, it was just kind of an unlucky spell for them. You lost on that half-court shot that sent it to overtime, and then you fell to Arizona. A couple games where you just didn't play your best, and you ran into a red-hot Kansas State team.
Who has since sputtered and died.
Yeah, of course. We will curse your team on this show. So
Yeah.
if you see your favorite team featured, probably run. It won't be good. But again, the Cyclones have really bounced back well. They still have 5 players averaging 10 or more points. Overall, they're ranked 9th in KenPom. But really, this team has made their presence known on the defensive end, similar to Houston, who we'll get to in just a second. But I mean, they force a lot of turnovers. They get after the ball, and they play in a lot of under Otzelberger. They'll play in a lot of low-scoring games, but this year they actually have a lot more shooting than usual to back that up.
Yeah, and speaking of the Cougars, here we go. They are looking for another regular season conference title, led by L.J. Cryer, who I feel like has been around for quite some time.
Houston always has a guard who's a 4th or 5th year guy.
Jamal Sheed,
He was awesome.
What a guy he was. Emmanuel Sharp has been really good as well on both ends, and that's the thing about Houston. All their players are good 2 ways. They don't
Absolutely.
have anyone who is, all defense or all offense. If you're going to play for the Cougars, especially now as they've transitioned into the Big 12, you got to bring it on both ends of the floor, and that's what they've done. And after this, the buck doesn't stop. They got number 9 Texas Tech.
It was their most recent loss before this
Exactly, and
win streak
one of
started.
the best games of the entire season. They'll take on JT Toppin and them, which should be just absolute cinema. But the Cougars on the cusp of a number 1 seed. Say if Florida or Tennessee falls, or Alabama lost by double digits.
They're
to
really
Mizzou.
right there.
Yeah.
I think a win here
wins
probably
here
propels
and
them.
wins over Texas Tech would be all you need really to kind of position yourself for that number 1 seed, which should be something really fun to watch. I think if this game is going to be anything, this could be an all-out brawl, 12 rounds, going down to the wire.
I don't think this one's going to be a barn burner scoring-wise, but I think it's going to be a great watch. Both teams like to press a lot, force a lot of turnovers, and again, Houston has a really great home atmosphere. I think this is just going to be a great battle between, I would say, the Big 12's 2 best teams.
Absolutely, and we have a little bit of an old-school rivalry here coming up, but it's got some new flair as one of the NCAA's biggest rivalries comes to the court tomorrow evening as the Spartans of Michigan State and the Wolverines of Michigan are going to duel it off in Ann Arbor. Spencer, it's a first-year head coach for Michigan against the eternal Tom Izzo. Kind of set the stage for this one.
This one's awesome. I mean, you've got Dusty May, who took his talents from FAU to Michigan and really took some of his players with him, hit the portal really well, but this Michigan team looks really good. I mean, there's kind of a race right now to win the Big Ten between these 2 teams in Purdue. Even Wisconsin's kind of in the mix there, so this game means a lot. Of course, it's a rivalry game, but you can really take the pole position in the conference with a win here. And Michigan State's been a team, they're really young, but they're backed up by a very veteran guard in Akins, and they've been awesome this year. I think they're really fun to watch. And again, Eternal Izzo, it's just what he does, man.
Yeah, they got a master and apprentice thing going on with Jace Richardson, the true freshman 5-star phenom. They have one of the best dunkers in college basketball in Cohen Carr. But it all comes back to Akins, who just puts it all on the line for this team. One of the few players that's stuck with a team all 4 years. And as you see there, a projected 4 seed. Both of these teams are right around there on the high end, so a win would likely catapult them to a 3 seed. And the kind of big thing for this team is, God, they can't shoot from deep. but also opponents can't shoot from deep against them.
Yeah.
I
think they also do a really good job of getting out in transition.
Yeah.
I think they're a super athletic team, as you mentioned, with Cohen Carr. But then you have some of the big bodies down low, like Jackson Kohler, who can stretch the floor. I think this team is awesome, JP. They're really good.
They're fun to watch. What is kind of the weakness for this team is the front court. They don't have like a great big. They got a couple transfers. But, man, if you're going up against Michigan and the two towers, a little bit of a Lord of the Rings reference for you guys there. I mean, they got the Balrog, man.
That's awesome, dude.
It's crazy. Vladislav Golden, the transfer from Florida Atlantic, who followed Dusty May, from FAU all the way up to Ann Arbor, and Danny Wolf, the transfer from Yale. Their top 4 scorers are all brand new transfer portal acquisitions. Joining Wolf and Golden, you have Trey Donaldson from Auburn and Roddy Gale Jr., who transferred from Ohio State to Michigan. How do you do that, Spencer?
I don't know. I didn't know that was possible. I mean, I feel like I didn't know if you'd put a ban on those 2 schools.
There's got to be some legislation there, but they've almost flipped the script completely. They went 8-24 a year ago, fired Juwan Howard, and now they're 20-5, first in the Big Ten, looking to win the regular season. And this team is just so much fun to watch. They're 19th in tempo. They do turn the ball over a lot, which is probably a byproduct of playing through the post and playing so fast.
We saw Purdue take advantage of
Yeah.
that. They got absolutely gobsmacked by Purdue a couple weeks ago, but they got their revenge recently. And this Michigan team, I think Dusty May's a really great coach.
Yeah.
And I think, the turnovers, they're still there, but they've definitely decreased since that Purdue game. They've really locked it in a little bit. They're cleaning up, their play on the offensive end. And again, this team can push the pace. Danny Wolf is a great passer for a big man. He's got great handles. He's very silky with the ball. And, I think this is going to be another awesome game. It's a great weekend for college hoops.
It really is. It's not just the big-time matchups, teams like that.
Teams are still trying to get there.
Yeah, it is an all-out brawl for some of these final spots of the dance. And we're going to talk about, of course, Bubble Watch.
Welcome to Bubble Watch.
Yeah.
We need a bubble and like a bubbles.
Our 3 teams for you here right now. It's a lot of the Midwest for you. You got a team from Texas, a team from Missouri, and a team from Oklahoma. Spencer, we're going to start off with the SMU Mustangs, who need a big win. They've had a really good season in the first year in the ACC, but they just haven't gotten it done against the top competition. They're 0-4 against Quad 1 opponents, but they're 20-6, top 40 in net and KenPom. Boopy Miller, the transfer from Wake Forest. They got a whole host of transfers. Him, Matt Cross, and all that. But, man,
2 leading scorers right there.
Yeah. They're on the fence. Some people have them in. Some people just can't because they don't have the big win. They got a heck of an opportunity this Saturday.
You sent me a great lob. It's make or break for the Mustangs here. You've got number 18 Clemson coming to your building. You've got your guys. This is the time to go and get that Quad 1 win. Clemson has really had another outstanding year. And if they were able to get a win over them, and a lot of people I think could have Clemson even higher up because they really do have a really great resume. The Mustangs, that would be huge for them. And I know how much the committee values those Quad 1 wins. At least getting 1 on your record and, ending the season on a high. Again, they still have a couple more games to play, but you want to be trending up as best you can right before the tournament starts.
Absolutely. And even if they do lose to Clemson, there will be opportunities in the ACC tournament to go up against, say, Wake Forest, Pitt, Louisville, Duke, even UNC, who the metrics still like, and got a nice win, big blowout win against NC State this week. The ACC, the bottom of it is really bad this year, but the top is as good as ever. There are some very fun teams, and it'll be fun to see them eat crow again in March, but this is just one of 3 teams.
It sure is. Say, Drake, you're next on Bubble Watch. We're talking about the Bulldogs. This team is awesome, and they're really kind of an amazing story. All these guys pretty much transferred from, was it D2?
Yeah, D2.
I forget the school, but
Darian DeVries left for West Virginia, and Drake hit another home run with a head coaching hire. They did lose at the buzzer to the Bradley Braves at home on Sunday, but man, they're a team, they just win. They're in a good conference. The Missouri Valley is nothing to scoff at. They are 1-0 against Quad 1. They have a double-digit win over Vanderbilt on a neutral floor. They also have a win on the road against Kansas State. And, it's not their fault that Kansas State didn't end up being that good. That's a great game to schedule and go out and win. And look,
being the aggressor.
They're 24-3. But their projections, they got to at least win out to the Missouri Valley title game or something. They can't afford to drop some of these games against Northern Iowa or Evansville.
Yeah, you definitely want to win out. Again, I think I said don't let me speak for you, but I think we'd both love to see the mid-majors get a little more love come March. Because, this team goes 24-3, and if they probably don't win the conference title, they're still going to be right on that bubble, either way.
Well, they're sharing it with, people like our next team. I was going to say something mean, but I'm not.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about the Sooners in a second.
I didn't want to jump ahead. I just,
not to spoil,
I put them here to make fun of them.
This Drake team is awesome, led by Bennett Sturts. Actually, I saw a crazy video of him the other day, how he navigates the pick and roll.
Yeah.
And, this is just a really great system. They're a great story. All these kids are D2 transfers. Winning at the D1 level and doing it at a 24-3 clip is pretty impressive.
Yeah, and going on the road to Kansas. You're going from D2 arenas to Manhattan, Kansas, Big 12 arena, and then they're playing, an SEC squad in Vanderbilt. It's not like this team scheduled a bunch of D2 teams, and they're
gutsy.
Their losses are by a combined 5 points, I think. This team deserves it. Unlike our next team, who is just in complete free fall, the Oklahoma Sooners, our last team here, they're trying to rise above the cream of the crop in a stacked SEC, and they just haven't done it. In the paraphrased words of REM, it's the end of the world, and the Oklahoma Sooners do not feel fine, as they have lost 3 of 10 since starting 13-0. Porter Moser, just another disastrous conference bout for them. They have some great out-of-conference wins. Arizona, Michigan, Louisville. But, man, they have not won consecutive games since December, Spencer.
Yeah, I think free fall was about as good as you could have done with the wordplay there. The Sooners they're not great. They really just aren't great. And I think, when you're right above South Carolina in the SEC standings, that's a horrible place to be. That's not good company by any means. And although they started the season hot, they've really fallen off a cliff. Jeremiah Fears and Jalen Moore, they're 2 leading scorers. But outside of that,
they just don't have much.
And they also, those guys don't score necessarily super efficiently.
No.
And I know Jeremiah Fears, he's a true freshman. He has a lot of great ability, but is definitely a shot chucker. And
and that's just not going to win you ball games, especially in the SEC with the defenses being what they are. And, it's about the whole body of work. They started good, and a lot of people were like, man, this team could be like a 1 or 2 seed in the tournament. Unfortunately, you got to play well over the course of the entire 31-game regular season.
If anything, you'd probably rather start slow and then build up towards March. They've regressed, and that's not exactly what you want to do at all. And
it's
JP,
all about getting hot at the right time.
Does it get easier for them?
It does not. Their next 2 games are against ranked. Their next 4 games are against ranked opponents, but we just do the next 2 here on Bubble Watch. They are at home against number 21 Mississippi State and number 17 Kentucky. So there are some opportunities here, but they haven't shown it recently. They've been blown out by Alabama. They've been blown out by Mizzou. They've been blown out by Texas A&M, I believe. This team just doesn't. They don't have it, man. They just haven't. They do have opportunities to right the ship. We'll see if they can do it.
We sure will, and we're going to take a trip over to the women's side of the ball. The longest home winning streak was snapped on Sunday when the UConn Huskies came to town and dominated South Carolina, something we haven't said in a long time. But, the Gamecocks just didn't have it, and boy, did the Huskies sure do. That didn't make sense, but they did have it.
It worked. But, UConn gets their revenge in this rivalry that had been kind of teetering towards the Carolina end of things since that national championship game our freshman year. And it was just from the onset, this game was never close. I think UConn had a lot to prove. People have kind of been down on them compared to years past. And they just went out there and controlled it wire to wire, Spencer.
They really did. And again, the last loss at Colonial Life was before either of us were on campus. They lost 54-46 to NC State in 2020. So again, that's when fans really couldn't attend the games, at least in a limited capacity. So it wasn't the CLA we know and love today, but man, the Huskies just had it going. South Carolina started way too slow and weren't able to get back into this, largely to UConn's ability to shoot the three. I mean, South Carolina got out-rebounded by 19 and only shot 17% from three. UConn was right around that 50% mark. AZ Fudd, Sarah Strong, Paige Beckers, they all played really well, and it was a tough game.
It was, and that's what happens sometimes, especially you lose Ashlyn Watkins. This team's banged up. I think, for once, South Carolina has a pretty good team, but not like an all-time great team, and that's fine. That's how college sports work. You're not supposed to be 35-1 all 4 million years in a row.
I was on Gamecock Game Day on Wednesday. Shout out to those guys. But we talked about, is it too early, or is it time to panic? And I was like, you've made the Final Four 4 straight years. Not to say that this team can't do that. You still have a chance to go and make a run at the tournament. Certainly you have a lot of film to go and watch what your weaknesses are and how to improve. But, I mean, you've made it to 4 straight Final Fours, and for once, you just might not be the best team in the country, and that's okay. As you said, that's normal, and, people need to pump the brakes just a little bit. I mean, Don Staley's still a heck of a coach and still going to right the ship, whether it's this year or in the future. This team still only has 3 losses, and, it's not doomsday.
No, it's not, and they just gotta take a chill pill, because they won by 44 against Arkansas. You just gotta get through it, manage the storm, because they're still probably gonna earn. If they take care of business, they'll be a 1 or 2 seed in the NCAA tournament
100%.
Easily. But speaking of number 1, there's a new number 1 in women's college basketball, and it's a team we talked about last week. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish are number 1, and they're going on the road in a tough test in Raleigh against number 13 NC State with College Game Day in attendance for a noon tip on Sunday. These two teams, much like Iowa State and Houston, they last met in the ACC tournament final with Notre Dame winning 55-51 a year ago. And Spencer, we talked about the Irish last week, and they just have, in the words of the immortal Fred Durst, they just keep on rolling, baby.
They do. I mean, it's an unstoppable offense is really just what it looks like, and they just let it rain from 3. They just win, really. It's that simple.
I mean,
they are just a really, really good team.
When they had moved up to number 2, I forgot to delete that. My bad, guys. They rattled off 19 straight since they fell to Utah in the Bahamas. And, against Duke was in it. Notre Dame was up by 2 at half. They opened the third quarter with a 17-1 run. This team can just
that's tough.
They can just turn it on. It could be anyone. Maddie Westbelt was amazing for them in that game against Duke. They get it from everybody.
It's not just the offense either. They really get after the ball and force turnovers on defense, and that's something that a lot of great women's basketball teams do, and Notre Dame is certainly fitting the bill for that.
Absolutely, and they have 8 wins against AP-ranked opponents. They're looking for their 8th this weekend against NC State. And for the Wolfpack, they're facing a team that just beat Miami by 40 while only making 5 threes. And threes are kind of the bread and butter.
Yeah.
The Wolfpack, of course, having another great season, as is per usual, with a familiar face on the squad.
Yes, Sanaya Rivers, the Gamecock transfer, really is the ball-dominant guard, I would say. She gets her teammates involved, like Isaiah James, who's one of the best shooters in the country. I mean, she just lets it rain from 3 and is really a great shooter. She's been great for the Wolfpack for years now. I mean, leading the team and scoring. And I think she's going to have to really carry a big load here if they're to take down Notre Dame.
Yeah, that's what you got to have everyone clicking on all cylinders. I think what helps NC State is that they have a great home environment. They have a 19-game home winning streak that dates back to, I believe, 2022. They're all 5 losses are to teams that are currently ranked. On Sunday, they had a 1-point loss on the road against North Carolina and followed it up by a 15-point win against number 20 Georgia Tech on the road. And this is a team that is really, I think, well-positioned to make a run. They're a very skilled offensive squad, but they don't, what they do on defense is they don't foul, but by virtue of not fouling, they don't really force many turnovers.
Yeah, and Notre Dame's going to look to take advantage of that. Again, it's another fun matchup. It's a great weekend for basketball on the men's and women's side, and we've got one more women's basketball preview for you. LSU is going to visit Lexington on Sunday to take on the Kentucky Wildcats, and this is going to be another fun game. We've got a lot of conference heavyweight bouts here as, again, LSU ranked 7th in the country, Kentucky at 14th. In their last matchup, Angel Reese dominated with 22-14 last March. This is the 3rd and 4th best teams in the SEC. JP, what are you looking for in this one?
Well, you know, it's a movie about how LSU bounces back. They had a tough loss at Texas on Sunday. You know, it's a game where it's like you'll lose and you're not, you know, it's like
South Carolina probably wasn't too
happens.
upset losing at Texas.
Exactly.
It's going to be a 1 seed is what it's looking like.
Texas
That's
is
a
a very, very good team. And, you know, but it's about how you respond. And they get another opportunity here against Kentucky, a team that was kind of down last year, but they're right back at it like they were when they won the SEC tournament a couple of years ago. And what an opportunity at home to kind of move into the top 10 here.
Yeah, got a couple Virginia Tech transfers. But first, let's take a look at the Tigers. Again, it's this triple threat on offense. It's Flau'jae Johnson, Anissa Morrow, and Michaela Williams. They're all just excellent players. They're so fun to watch, and they all have very differing styles. I mean, Flau'jae almost putting up 20 points on 50% shooting, close to it. Anissa Morrow down low is arguably, maybe not arguably, she's probably the best rebounder in college basketball, almost 15 boards a game. Unbelievable down there. South Carolina still got the win over the Tigers, but she was dominant down on that low block, really just eating up the offensive boards. And Michaela Williams can do a lot off the dribble and has a great jumper. This offense is super fun to watch. And again, it's LSU. We're not too surprised that they are where they are.
Yeah, you know, Kim Mulkey's squad, year in, year out, they don't rebuild, they reload, and they're just going to keep it rolling. Their only losses are on the road. That's something I think to take in mind here as they travel on the road to face off against the Kentucky Wildcats. We'll take a look at those Wildcats right now. As you know, it's been a really strong year for them. Their only losses out of conference is to a top 10 North Carolina squad, and then you know they've outblocked their opponents 174-58. This is a team that's kind of built on their defense. And Spencer, they score by committee, but Georgia Moore.
So close. Georgia A. Moore. I got you.
Whoa,
buddy.
whoa! Why did I say Georgia? Dude, I think I hit my head last night. Oh my God, that was really bad.
I don't know if the fans at home can see that, but JP double-taked and now has the script over his head. No, Georgia A. Moore.
What the?
She is a great scorer. 19 points per game. We saw it at Virginia Tech with the Hokies. She's also a really great passer. Over 7 assists per game, but she can get it done from 3. And if she gets hot,
I'm never living that one
it
down.
It is tough. It's like every time you pronounce Tyler Hero.
Yeah, it's different. That's out of hate and spite. I don't know this woman. She's never wronged me. Unfortunately, I did just pronounce her name like she is a Tom Clancy villain.
Hopefully she's not watching this, and maybe she'll drop 20 in your honor against the Tigers. But
I just can't believe that.
I'm sorry.
yeah, it's a tough one to live down.
I'm back, but this is going to be a great game.
It's pretty good. But this Kentucky team, you know, you've got 4 players that average almost 12 a game, the 4th averaging 11.9. So you do it by committee. You play defense by committee. Typically, that's a recipe for success, and they're having their best year in a while.
They are indeed. They're looking to get back to that SEC tournament final where they got the best of the Gamecocks. I believe that was 2023?
Yeah, 2 years ago, I think.
South Carolina ended up going, it was their only loss, I think, en route to a national title.
Yeah.
And this is just, I mean, basketball in Kentucky goes about as well as America and apple pie. They're having great years in both women's and men's spot.
Yeah.
You know, Louisville having a great year. Kentucky having a great year. Western Kentucky Eastern Kentucky. I don't know if there's a Southern Kentucky University.
There is a Northern.
I know about
The
that
Norse.
one. Yep, the
There
Norse.
you go.
But it's just been a great year for basketball. It's been a great year for basketball across the country.
It's been a
Spencer.
great year.
And we'll be picking
2025.
games here soon.
We will. We're going to take a quick break, kind of recoup a little bit, and we'll be back with pick'ems to wrap up another episode of Ball Don't Lie.
and welcome back to BDL Pick'ems. After last week, I have a 25-20 record. I got burned on Purdue both times, I believe. And Spencer sits at 28 wins and 17 losses. We're going to start here with some baseball. Gamecock Baseball series against Milwaukee. Spencer.
I'm going to assume we're both going with the Gamecocks here. And, JP, I'm going to go out on a limb. They should sweep this team.
They should sweep this team.
I think they will.
R/the Gamecock, I think that they're going to get the victory against Milwaukee this week. And I don't know
That
if
was
it's
awesome, dude.
Yeah. I don't think it really necessitates much. I mean, I didn't know Milwaukee really had a baseball team until we started doing the prep for this team, other than the Brewers. But, we'll go now to women's basketball, where we have our 3 star-studded matchups with number 1 Notre Dame on the road against number 13 NC State. Spencer, who do you got?
I'm going to go with Notre Dame. Again, it's riding with the hot hand. I think they're just going to cause a lot of problems for this NC State defense that probably won't cause too many problems for them. And I think it's as simple as that. The Irish get it done. Yeah,
it's a big-time road environment, but Notre Dame has thrived in those early on in this year. They've done it on the road against Louisville. They've done it on the road pretty much the entire year. Their only losses are on a neutral floor. So I'm going to take the Irish. I think they just keep on rolling, baby. Keep on rolling. Now, as we move on to number 6, South Carolina, looking to right the ship on the road against a Vanderbilt squad.
I think they do right the ship, but I do think this one's going to be a little closer than people would like because Vanderbilt has a true freshman who's had multiple 50-point games. Michaela Blakes is awesome for them. So I'd look for her to get hers, but I think the Gamecocks are going to get the win overall.
I agree. I think South Carolina takes care of business on the road. Now, for our final women's basketball matchup, it's number 7 LSU on the road against number 14 Kentucky.
I'm going to go with your girl, Georgia. Give me the Wildcats at home. I think they take down the Tigers just because LSU, they have a trend of losing on the road. It's their only losses. I think Kentucky's going to play just a really good game. I think they're a really good team.
Material.
That's right.
I mispronounced the name of their best player.
That's right. And you know what? They're definitely going to watch this and circle it. But no, I think the Wildcats get it done. And what's probably going to be, I would say this might be the closest game of the 3.
I think I agree, and I think I just have to take Kentucky after what I did. I think the Wildcats get it done at home against the Tigers.
And moving on to the men's side of the ball, we've got an in-state rivalry. It's number 14 Michigan State at number 12 Michigan. JP?
I think Vladislav and Wolf are just too much for the Spartans to hold on to down low, and I think Michigan gets it done at home.
You are sick if you think I'm picking the Wolverines. Give me the Spartans on the road. Go Sparty, go Izzo. I think this team is awesome. I've got them circled come tournament time. They're one of my teams who I'm just saying,
I can't wait for the Baldwin NCAA tournament
scratching my
special.
chin looking at them as I predict them to the Final Four. Number 8, Iowa State at number 5, Houston in the Big 12. JP.
This would be a knock 'em down, slug 'em, rock 'em, sock 'em, robots, fighting action game. And in that, you got to roll with the home team, and I'm going with Houston. I think they get it done. LJ Cryer has a nice game.
I think you absolutely roll with the home team in this. It's a real toss-up. I mean, I think either way, this one's going to be close. I think Houston's defense is going to prove to be a little bit too much. They've got guys who they can go to in the clutch on offense. Emmanuel Sharp, seems like you just give him the ball, he's going to sink a mid-range jumper in your face, and eventually, that could be what makes the difference in this one. And we've got a high-ranked SEC matchup that we didn't talk about because, frankly, it's kind of boring. Number 6, Tennessee at number 7, Texas A&M. We're not big fans of either of these teams, are we?
I'll set the stage for you. The clock is ticking down. They give it over to Texas A&M's Clayton. And he shoots, and he scores, and Texas A&M wins 2-0. Final score. I mean, good God, these teams can't shoot the rock, and it's hard to watch. And frankly, I have them both circled for tournament time as teams that will lose.
In red.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, good Lord. You can't shoot. You can't win big games. One of them has to win this game. And I guess I will pick against Rick Barnes because he gets up there and he looks like, an 80-year-old senator in his 15th term on the sideline for big games. So I'm taking Buzz Williams and Texas A&M at home.
I am going to go with Tennessee just because I picked against them last time. They really bit me.
That's fair. Unfortunately.
I think they're a very spotty shooting team. So if they show up, they could win by 30.
That is true.
You know, it's either that or it's going to be a close game that no one really wants to watch. But I'm going to take the Vols either way. Moving on to a much cooler matchup. It's the ACC, number 18 Clemson at SMU, a hit feature on Bubble Watch this week. You think the Stangs get it done at home?
You know, the problem is that they've played really well against lesser competition, but they can't shoot when they play against the teams they need to beat. Clemson's defense is suffocatingly good. We've seen it against Duke. We've seen it against, all these teams. And frankly, if they can do it against Kentucky and Duke, they can do it against SMU on the road. I think that they just Chase Hunter and Clemson, they just get it done, man.
I think the Tigers also get it done. I hope SMU puts up a good fight because I think this would be a cool team to see in the tournament. But I think the Tigers just have too much, and especially down low, I just wonder how the Mustangs are going to be able to respond down there.
A lot of Russians on the show with Vladislav Golden and Victor Locken.
And we've been talking about hockey the whole time. Russia wasn't featured in the Four Nations, but maybe they'll make it 5 next time and make it fun. It was already fun, but Russia has some pretty cool players.
Yeah.
Moving on to the A10, it's George Mason at VCU, an underrated matchup here.
Two teams that should be ranked, truthfully. I mean, they're both like 24. They're both like 22-5 or something like that. They're just so good.
Mid-major justice.
Mid-major justice. The A10, one of my favorite conferences to follow, and really the winner of this has the inside track to the regular season championship, and the loser is going to have to fight and claw their way on the bubble. And John Rothstein said it best. It's better than a spring break in Florida. Give me VCU at home.
I couldn't have said it better. I'm not gonna argue with John Rothstein. Give me the Rams at home. I just think they get it done behind their just barrage of shooting that they can lean on to win in these close games. That's what happened against Dayton, and I think they get it done against George Mason at home. Moving on to our last matchup of the night. It looks like night with these curtains.
If we opened it, you would be blinded by the heavenly rays.
It's an SEC matchup. Number 17 Kentucky at number 4 Alabama. JP, this one was a really good game the first time around.
It really was. It was a high-scoring, just masterpiece. Alabama coming off of a tough loss to Mizzou on the road, a blowout loss. They lost last week to Auburn at home. And I think they lose to Kentucky as well. Give me the Wildcats in both men's and women's. I think they get it done on the road in a big win.
I would pick Kentucky if they were at full strength. They've been dealing with a little bit of injuries here recently. Again, I do think Alabama's had a tough go of it as of late. I think they bounce back at home against the Kentucky side that's just not fully healthy, and they get their home crowd to lean on. I think Bama gets it done, and again, that's going to do it for another episode of Ball Don't Lie. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, X, and TikTok at SGTV at USC.
To keep up with all of our content, be sure to also visit us online at sgtv@usc.com. For SGTV, I'm JP Barry.
And I'm Spencer Ball. From all of us here at SGTV, have a great weekend, Carolina. Forever to thee.
Georgia. My God. The Georgia Bulldogs.
Georgia.